Hello. So today I am actually going to talk a little bit about some personal things because people have asked me before to speak a little bit about my personal background because I've never really done that before with any of my other gold and silver videos. So people have asked me questions in the past, so I'm going to answer some of those questions and just give you a little bit, I guess, about my background. So I was born and raised in Philadelphia. That's where I grew up. I love Philly because I feel like there's a certain rawness to that urban environment that creates loyalty in people, and also I think you get a lot of what you see is what you get, which I love. So there's very few people in Philly that are two-faced. They don't like you, you're going to know they don't like you. And if they like you, then you're going to know that they're going to be a really loyal friend for a really long time. So I went to college at the University of Pennsylvania as well. And education is a really interesting topic with me because I don't really feel, even though it was an Ivy League school, that I really gained a lot from going to an Ivy League school. Because I guess the most important thing people get from going to top universities is probably the connections they make with other powerful, wealthy people. But I didn't really use university as an opportunity to make connections, even though George Bush's nephew was there at the time I was there. And I didn't really use it because I'm not that kind of Machiavellian person where I'm just going to befriend someone just so I can take advantage of whatever resources they can give me. So other than that, really, there was no advantage of me going to an Ivy League school over any other school. But that's a topic for a different day. But it's also the reason why I'm developing right now my Smart Wealth Education program, which you can go to our website and check out the fact sheet. But enough about that. So after uni, I worked for a small community healthcare organization, and we basically provided healthcare in really needy neighborhoods where there weren't any hospitals. There are very few other medical providers in that area. So we really filled a need, and it was in some rough neighborhoods. I worked in Southwest Philly, up near 53rd and Larchmont. We had clinics in South Philly as well, and in North Philly in Hunting Park. I managed a couple high school clinics at Benjamin Franklin High School, John Bartram High School, which if you're from Philly, you know that those are two of the most violent high schools in Philadelphia. In fact, when I went to work at those clinics, I had to go through a metal detector every day, but I still knew that there were plenty of guns in those schools despite the metal detectors. And just from talking to the teachers there that say they would see students with guns. And also as well, the situation was not conducive to learning because it was almost like a prison. So when I had to walk through hallways, there was actually Philly PD that were there and would open up the door, walk through, they shut it behind me with a lock, just like in prison, just like in a cell block. And then I had to walk down the hallway to the other side where another cop would open up the door for me and then let me through and shut it behind me, and it would lock as well. So at those schools, I also ran an after-school program for the kids where I basically just provided them with mentoring because they're very at risk due to their socioeconomic status, due to their lack of resources in their communities. But I discovered they're really, really wonderful kids. So I learned a lot from those experiences because, as does anyone that is dwelling in such circumstances, I just learned they have the same dreams as everyone else. They just want to rise out of that poverty and build a better life for themselves. So when I left Philly, then I went to grad school at the University of Texas, where I earned a double master in business administration, a concentration in finance, and also in a master in public policy. So again, I feel that if I knew what I knew now, I would definitely have not gone in and pursued my MBA whatsoever, because I feel it was a total waste of money. Especially if you're going to become an entrepreneur, as I did. There's no sense in there's nothing realistic actually that you learn. It's either theory that is not applicable in the practical world, or it's just flat out lies, because everything you learn, like I said, about free markets, capitalism, all markets are manipulated. So that does not help you build wealth at all, because you basically, once you learn the truth, you have to erase everything you learned in business school and then start building your knowledge from scratch, because the knowledge that they teach you in business school is a bunch of lies. So what probably was more helpful of my two masters was my master in public policy, because I did have access to former governors, former defense secretaries, former presidents that would come to our school and speak. And it's interesting to hear these people once they're out of office, because they can speak more openly about the truth. So you learn how politics is really intimately tied to the banking sector, is intimately tied to the legal sector, and you learn a lot from these politicians that are willing, some who are very willing to speak truthfully once they're out of office about these certain truths. And then after that, I went to San Francisco, where I worked for one of the largest banks on the West Coast, Wells Fargo, as a private banker, and I also worked eventually in Los Angeles for Smith Barney as a private wealth manager in the Beverly Hills office. So there again, I learned about all the fraud, all the immorality, all the Wolf of Wall Street shenanigans that were still going on when I was there, and that are still going on today, but just not in as overt a capacity, but it's certainly going on. And that's why eventually I left in disgust that industry, because I really felt like it was just blood money if I was going to stay there, and if I was going to rise up that corporate ladder. And I felt if you have any honest integrity, you're not going to rise up the corporate ladder in any of those firms, because the only way you do so is by basically lying, cheating, and stealing from your clients. And that's the way that these guys make money. So I left to start my own business. So that's kind of the background. Oh, and also I would say, like, something about me that probably no one knows from watching my videos is that I've always had a very creative need, or a desire to fill a creative capacity. So when I was younger, I used to draw all the time, and was into music. So I did the obligatory, violin thing, because as an Asian, your parents want you to play like some kind of classical instrument. I also play the piano, trumpet. Now I'm teaching myself how to play guitar. So I'm a huge audiophile. Listen to a lot of different kinds of music. I've listened to jazz, blues, R&B, hip hop, pop, rock. Probably the only category I don't listen to is country. But I listen to everything else, electronica. Huge cinephile too. Love movies as well. So actually, I think I've done a couple movie reviews on this channel before, where I reviewed Amores Perros and Emizu, which are two of my favorite foreign films. One spectacular film which I saw recently, which is an American independent film, which I highly recommend, is Short Term 12. Again, Short Term 12. If you haven't seen it, check it out. You won't be disappointed. So I've always had an inclination to do other things outside, especially when I was in finance. Those years I was working in the commercial banking industry, I felt like during the day it was sucking my very life force and my soul. So in the evenings, I would do a lot of things like volunteer work. And when I was in LA, I volunteered with gang members again. So, you meet kids that are 15 going on 50, because you listen to the things that they've gone through, and they've probably gone through more struggles than any of these people that are considered the elite will go through their entire lives. By the time they were like 10, they had seen a lifetime of struggle. But again, I think a lot of these kids were misunderstood. I already knew that from working with those kids in Philadelphia that had similar circumstances. But here you have kids that admittedly have done some bad things, but they've seen a lot of bad things. I had kids that were 16 telling me that they have seen 3 or 4 kids, 3 or 4 of their friends die in front of them. That's right, either stabbed to death, shot to death. So when you work with kids like this, you really get a different perspective on life, which I think is wonderful, because that's what life is about. It's not, about staying in your little bubble and just thinking that that is how the world operates. But it's about seeing other cultures, appreciating other cultures, seeing other religions, appreciating other religions, seeing other countries, and understanding things that are different than your experience, and gaining appreciation and at minimum an understanding of these things that may be novel to you. So novelty should not be a reason to be fearful. So we should embrace change. We're taught change is a bad thing, but change is a wonderful thing. Because in life you're either progressing or regressing. So I don't think there's anything, I don't even think there's a state of being stagnant. People say I'm in a rut, but you're probably regressing if you're in a rut, because life is dynamic. And so that's why these experiences were so important to me in shaping who I am today. And lastly, martial arts has always been an integral part of my life since I was, say, in my early 20s. So had some wonderful teachers throughout that who taught me a lot about life. I think there's a lot about martial arts I learned. The discipline, the perseverance, the not giving up when things get tough was invaluable as an entrepreneur, to have that kind of mentality drilled into me and ingrained. The independent thinking that comes from martial arts, because you're taught that warrior spirit, and that your greatest enemy is really yourself, and that anything is possible if only you have the right mentality. So that goes back to the very first intro I did for this series of videos that will be accompanied by this intro, is we are what we think. And I think that's so important, to get that negativity out of your life, get the haters out of your life, and stop hanging around people that are pulling you down. Even if you don't consciously realize it, negative people are dragging you down and planting these little seeds of doubt in your mind that if you have a dream that maybe you can't do it, you need to knock that out of your mind, because to accomplish what your potential is, of course, you need to have belief in yourself. And, so don't let anyone else tell you can't do something. So it's super important. So, okay, I think I've rambled enough for this session. So I'll definitely come back, and hopefully you guys will like these videos. Please do comment below. Tell me what topics you want me to talk about. I have plenty of topics that I want to talk about in the future, but it's great to hear what you guys also want me to talk about. So that's it for today, and as always, remain intensely curious. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe below, and until next time.